Commander Alan Hayes stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the endless sea of stars through the massive viewing window. The deep space vessel had been patrolling the outer solar system for 3 months now, and Hayes was looking forward to returning home. His dark hair was slightly longer than regulation allowed, but out here, no one minded. "Commander, I'm picking up something unusual," said Lisa Mitchell, her eyes fixed on her console. As science officer, she rarely showed excitement, but Hayes noticed her posture change. "Define unusual, Mitchell," Hayes replied, moving to her station. "An encoded signal, sir, not ours. Not from Earth or any of our colonies." Lisa brushed a strand of blonde hair from her face, and definitely not random space noise. Hayes frowned. "Origin? Sector 7, near Neptune's orbit. It's weak, but it's repeating." The bridge fell silent. First contact protocols had been established decades ago, but no one had ever needed to use them. Until now. "Record everything," Hayes ordered. "Johnson, adjust our course. Garcia, alert Earth Command, but maintain communications silence otherwise." The Valiant changed direction, engines humming as they pushed toward the mysterious signal source. Hours passed as the crew prepared for every possibility. "Visual contact in 3 minutes," reported the navigation officer. Hayes felt his heart race. "Put it on screen when ready." When the image appeared, gasps echoed across the bridge. A spacecraft unlike anything humans had designed drifted against the black backdrop of space. Its hull was damaged, with strange blue energy leaking from multiple breaches. "Life signs?" Hayes asked. Lisa nodded. "Yes, sir. Faint but present. They're in trouble." Hayes made his decision. "Prepare a boarding team. Mitchell, you're with me. Medical, suit up." The team boarded the alien vessel through an airlock that seemed to adapt to their technology. Inside, the air was breathable but thin. Strange writing covered walls that appeared to be made of both metal and some biological material. "This way," Lisa said, following her scanner. "The life signs are stronger here." They found the survivors in what seemed to be a control room. 5 beings, humanoid but clearly alien, with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. 3 were unconscious. 2 looked up as the humans entered. One alien stepped forward cautiously, touching its chest. "Kreth," it said, then gestured to its companions. "Nilari." Hayes mimicked the gesture. Hayes. Human. The alien called Kreth seemed to understand. It pointed to a display showing a star map, then to a dark area that seemed to be expanding. "Void," it said, making a sweeping motion of destruction. "Running. Escape." Lisa activated her translator program, though it struggled with the unknown language. After several minutes of attempted communication, she turned to Hayes, her face pale. "Sir, I think they're refugees. They're running from something they call the void that destroyed their homeworld." The second conscious alien approached a display and showed images of planets being consumed by darkness. Then, surprisingly, it pointed to a crude representation of Earth's solar system. "They know where we're from," Hayes said quietly. Kreth's color changed to a deep red. The translator finally caught enough patterns to convert some words. "Dangerous zone. Forbidden territory. Why build there?" Hayes and Lisa exchanged glances. "What's forbidden about our solar system?" Hayes asked. The alien's response chilled him even before the translator processed it. "Boundary, edge of hunger. You build homes near the feeding grounds of death." Later, aboard the Valiant, the Nilari recovered enough to use Earth's database to enhance communication. Kreth seemed increasingly distressed as he learned more about human civilization. "You do not know," he said, his translator now functioning better. "Your people settled in the Shadow Realm without knowing." "The shadow of what?" Hayes asked. "The void consumes worlds, civilizations, entire species," Kreth replied. "We are the last of the Nilari. And you humans have built your home directly in its path." The Valiant returned to Earth orbit within a week, carrying its unexpected alien passengers. General Kate Walsh paced the conference room at Global Defense Headquarters, occasionally glancing at the screen showing the Nilari ambassador Kreth. His skin rippled with orange and purple hues as he waited patiently. "Let me get this straight," General Walsh said, her voice firm but controlled. "You're claiming some cosmic entity has been devouring civilizations, and we're next on the menu." Kreth's translator converted his musical language. "The void is not one entity. It is many. They feed on developed worlds. Your nuclear tests, your space signals, they are like lights in darkness, calling them." The room filled with military officials and scientists exchanged uncomfortable glances. Among them sat Paul Bennett, a researcher from the Astronomical Survey Division. He cleared his throat. "General, I've been reviewing our deep space scans from the past 50 years, Paul said, adjusting his glasses. "There are anomalies we've always dismissed as instrument errors, regions where stars simply don't exist anymore." "Natural phenomena," argued Defense Secretary Wilson. "That's what we thought," Paul replied. "But when I overlap these regions with the star maps the Nilari provided, they match perfectly with what they call void territories." General Walsh's expression hardened. "Even if we believe this, why haven't we encountered these things before?" A woman at the end of the table stood up. Grace Kim, head of historical research, placed an ancient tablet on the table. "Because maybe we have," she said quietly. "This Sumerian tablet describes devourers of light that caused a great civilization to vanish. Similar stories exist in dozens of ancient cultures, beings that come from the stars and leave emptiness behind." Kreth's colors shifted to deep blue. "Your planet has faced tests before. Small incursions. Your people called them gods or demons." "That's ridiculous," the defense secretary muttered. "Is it?" Grace asked. "Something wiped out advanced human civilizations multiple times throughout our prehistory. We've never had a good explanation for why humanity seemingly restarted its technological progress repeatedly." Scientist Boyd from Planetary Defense spoke up. "The warning markers the Nilari mentioned, we found them. We thought they were natural formations on Pluto and several Kuiper Belt objects. They're artificial, millions of years old, warning about entering this region of space." The room fell silent. "Why warn us and not destroy us?" General Walsh asked Kreth. "The void does not seek simple destruction. It feeds on consciousness, on development, on potential. Young species are unripe fruit, but you have grown. Your technology expands. You are noticed now." Paul Bennett pulled up a holographic display. "Based on the Nilari data, Earth sits precisely on the edge of what they call a feeding zone. We've been developing on the doorstep of predators we couldn't see." "How did your civilization fall?" Grace asked Kreth gently. "We were unprepared. The void came suddenly. Billions gone in days. Our oldest colonies consumed first. Only those of us fleeing in experimental ships survived." General Walsh rubbed her temples. "And you believe Earth is next?" "Yes," Kreth said simply. "But there is something unusual about humans. Your minds are different. Your art, your imagination, your dreams, they confused our scientists. The way you think may be important." "Important how?" asked Paul. "The void entities avoid certain thought patterns. Your planet has natural defenses we haven't seen before. It is why we came here rather than flee further. We believe humans might resist where others failed." General Walsh looked around the room. "I want verification of everything the Nilari have told us. Astronomical confirmation, historical records, everything. If Earth is facing an existential threat, I need to know it's real before I take this to world leaders." As the meeting adjourned, Grace approached the general. "Kate, what if they're right? What if humanity's entire history has been shaped by something we never knew existed?" Then Walsh replied grimly, We're about to learn why we're the last line of defense for a galaxy that never bothered to warn us. The alarm blared through the Europa Research Station at 300 Earth Standard Time. The 23 scientists and support staff awoke to emergency lights bathing their quarters in red. Dr. Mason had just enough time to reach the communications console before the outer dome sensors went dark. Europa Station to Earth Command, we have an unknown situation, he reported, voice steady despite his racing heart. All external cameras are offline. Request immediate. His message cut off as the station shook. Through the reinforced windows, the staff watched in horror as the ice surface of Jupiter's moon began to disappear. Not melt, not break, simply fade away, revealing a swirling darkness underneath. Commander Alan Hayes received the distress call aboard the Valiant while in orbit around Earth. Within hours, his ship and 2 others launched toward Jupiter, carrying a rescue team and combat personnel. The journey, even with the newest engines, would take days. Play that last transmission again, Hayes ordered tactical specialist John Rodriguez. The screen showed static, then brief glimpses of darkness moving against Europa's surface before cutting out completely. That's them, said Kreth, the Nilari ambassador who had insisted on joining the mission. The Void has begun testing your defenses. Hayes turned to communications expert Olivia Wright, a woman known for breaking previously undecipherable codes. Any progress on those signals we detected coming from Europa after the attack began? Olivia nodded, her expression troubled. Yes, sir, but they're not from our people. She brought up a display showing wave patterns. These are emanating from whatever is on Europa. I've managed to translate fragments using the Nilari language database and our quantum computers. And, Hayes prompted when she hesitated, they don't see us as threats, Commander, barely acknowledge us as sentient. The closest translation I can manage for what they call humans is undeveloped resource. Rodriguez studied tactical displays. Whatever they are, they're consuming the station's power first. Energy signatures are dropping systematically. They feed on technology and consciousness together, Kreth explained. Technology draws them. Minds nourish them. By the time the rescue fleet reached Europa, half the moon's surface appeared covered in shifting darkness. The research station itself stood isolated on an island of ice, surrounded by what looked like liquid shadow. No response to communications, Olivia reported, but I'm picking up brain activity readings from inside. Some of our people are still alive. Hayes organized a rescue team. They landed a kilometer from the station and approached on foot, weapons ready. The team included Hayes, Rodriguez, and a dozen Marines. Through their helmet cameras, Earth Command watched nervously. As they approached the darkness, sensors began malfunctioning. Rodriguez noticed something odd. The darkness retreats from us, just slightly, but it's moving away as we approach. Your natural shield, Kreth said through the comm. Human minds have an unexpected quality, something the Void finds difficult to process. The team reached the station to find 7 survivors huddled in the central lab. The others were simply gone. No bodies, no traces. Dr. Yates, the lead physicist, clutched a device she built from station parts. They took Martin first, she said, voice hollow. Then we noticed they avoided this. She held up the device, which emitted a faint pulse. It's just a modified brain scanner, but when we reverse the signal to project rather than receive, they stay back. Later, aboard the Valiant, Kreth studied the device with growing excitement. Your consciousness has properties we've never seen, he told Hayes. The Nilari believed creativity was simply an evolutionary quirk, but human minds are unpredictable in ways that disrupt Void patterns. You're saying our imagination works as a weapon? Hayes asked. Not a weapon. A shield, Kreth corrected. The Void entities consume what they can predict and process. Human thought patterns contain something they cannot digest. Olivia interrupted with urgent news. Commander, I've finished decoding more Void communications. They're calling for reinforcements. This was just a scout group. Hayes looked at the surviving scientists, Then back to Earth displayed on the main viewer. How long do we have? Weeks, Kreth said. At most. Dr. Sandra Lee stood before a room filled with Earth's top scientists and military leaders. Behind her, a holographic display showed brain wave patterns from the Europa survivors compared to those of void-affected areas. The patterns don't match, she explained, pointing to the contrasting wavelengths. When human consciousness encounters void entities, there's a disruption effect. Our minds create what I'm calling a psychic shield, though it's not supernatural, just neurological. General Walsh leaned forward. You're saying our brains naturally repel these things? Not entirely, Dr. Lee clarified. But human thought contains elements the void can't easily process. Abstract thinking, creativity, contradictory emotions. These create friction in their feeding process. Frank Wilson, the head engineer who had been quietly working at the back of the room, stepped forward. I've been modifying Dr. Yates' device from Europa. If Dr. Lee is right, we could amplify this effect. He placed a small device on the table. It hummed softly, emitting a faint blue glow. This prototype converts human brain patterns into a focused field. Early tests show it creates a 10-meter dead zone that void matter can't penetrate. How many would we need to protect Earth? Walsh asked. Frank hesitated. Thousands, and they'd require massive power. From the corner, military strategist Eric Campbell spoke up. What if we don't just defend? What if we use Earth's position strategically? All eyes turned to him as he joined Frank and Dr. Lee at the display. The Nilari maps show Earth sits at the edge of void territory. If we can create a strong enough shield, we don't just protect ourselves. We create a barrier they can't cross to reach other systems. You want to use Earth as a blockade? Hayes asked, skeptical. A shield, Campbell corrected, for the entire sector. The debate continued for hours until an unexpected alert sounded. All communication screens activated simultaneously, showing a symbol no human had seen before. That's a Galactic Council emergency override, Kreth explained, surprised. They're contacting you directly. The screen shifted to show a panel of diverse alien beings. The central figure, a tall blue-skinned entity, spoke in perfect English. People of Earth, I am Xorla, High Counselor of the Galactic Alliance. We have detected your resistance to void incursion. This is unexpected. The room fell silent until General Walsh stepped forward. You knew about these void entities and about Earth. The alien's expression was unreadable. We have monitored your world for centuries. Your solar system sits on the boundary of what we call the dark zone. We believed your planet would fall like the others. You used us as a buffer, Hayes asked, anger rising in his voice. Xorla didn't deny it. 27 civilizations have fallen to the void in the past millennium. Your planet's position made it strategically valuable as an early warning system. Dr. Lee stepped forward. But you never expected us to fight back. No species has successfully resisted void consumption once noticed, another council member said. Your neurological structure is unique. We observed but did not interfere, as intervention has historically accelerated void attacks. Frank studied the aliens carefully. You've been hiding. All this time, advanced civilizations have been hiding while less developed worlds get consumed. Survival required difficult choices, Xorla replied without apology. Now circumstances have changed. Your resistance creates an opportunity the Council must evaluate. General Walsh's expression hardened. While you evaluate, we'll keep fighting for our survival. That won't be necessary, Xorla said. The Council offers Earth immediate evacuation rights. Your people will be relocated to sanctuary worlds beyond void reach. You want us to abandon Earth? Dr. Lee asked. It is the established protocol. No homeworld near the dark zone can be permanently defended. Your people will be safe. Campbell exchanged glances with Hayes and Dr. Lee. And what happens to this sector of space if Earth falls? The alien silence answered the question clearly. We need time to consider your offer, Walsh finally said. After the transmission ended, Hayes turned to the others. They never expected us to fight. They never expected the shield theory to work. They're afraid, Dr. Lee realized, not just of the void, but of what it means if humans can resist it. Then let's give them something new to fear, Campbell said. A choice between hiding and standing with humanity, as we become the shield they never had the courage to be. The Galactic Council chamber was unlike anything humans had ever constructed. Built within a hollowed-out asteroid in neutral space, its walls shimmered with technologies beyond Earth's understanding. 7 Earth representatives stood at the center of the circular room, surrounded by delegates from over 30 alien civilizations. Diplomat Natalie Carter led the human delegation. Tall and composed, she had been chosen for her clear thinking under pressure. Beside her stood Commander Hayes, Dr. Lee, Frank Wilson, and 3 others selected for their expertise. "We appreciate the Council's invitation," Natalie began, her voice carrying through the chamber. "But Earth has questions before we consider your evacuation offer." Sorla, the blue-skinned High Counselor, nodded slightly. "You may ask, though time grows short. Our sensors detect increased void activity near your solar system. How many civilizations has the Council successfully evacuated from void territory?" Natalie asked directly. An uncomfortable murmur spread through the alien delegates. Finally, a reptilian counselor answered. 3 species were partially evacuated. Most populations were lost during the process. "And how many civilizations have been sacrificed as buffers?" Commander Hayes added, unable to hide his anger. Zorla's eyes narrowed. 27 major civilizations have fallen within the established containment zone. This strategy has protected hundreds more beyond the boundary. Dr. Lee stepped forward with her data tablet. "Our research shows the void entities are drawn to technological advancement and predictable thought patterns. They avoid human consciousness because we think in ways they can't easily process." "Your theories are interesting but untested," replied a counselor with 4 arms and gleaming silver skin. "No species has successfully repelled a full void assault once targeted." "Then we'll be the first," Hayes said. Sorla leaned forward. "You misunderstand your position. Earth was permitted to develop because your location serves as an early warning system. You were never expected to survive." The human delegation exchanged glances. Natalie maintained her diplomatic composure despite the shocking admission. "What exactly lies beyond the dark zone that you're protecting?" she asked. The council chamber darkened as a holographic map appeared. It showed thousands of inhabited systems behind a boundary line, with Earth and a few dozen other worlds forming a narrow buffer zone along the edge. "The core worlds of 78 advanced civilizations," Sorla explained. "Trillions of lives depend on maintaining the boundary." "By sacrificing billions on frontier worlds," Hayes noted bitterly. Frank Wilson studied the map carefully. "You've been retreating for centuries, giving up system after system. How long before you run out of buffer zones?" The council members shifted uncomfortably. A truth had been spoken that none wished to acknowledge. "Evacuation is the only proven survival method," Sorla insisted. "We offer sanctuary to worthy populations. 30,000 humans could be saved." 30,000, Natalie repeated. "Earth has over 9 billion people. Resources are limited. We select for genetic diversity and useful skills." Dr. Lee stepped forward, face flushed with anger. "While Earth dies to buy you time. That's not an alliance. It's exploitation." Hayes placed a hand on her shoulder, then addressed the council. "We have another proposal. Our shield technology shows promise. With your advanced resources, we could expand it to protect not just Earth, but establish a defensive line." "Impossible," several counselors declared simultaneously. "You haven't even tried," Natalie pointed out. "For centuries, you've been retreating. What if it's time to hold ground?" Debate erupted throughout the chamber. After nearly an hour, Sorla called for silence. "The council has deliberated. We offer this compromise. A small delegation of our scientists will evaluate your shield technology. If it shows promise, we will consider limited resource allocation. Meanwhile, we maintain our evacuation offer for your selected population." The humans stepped away to confer privately. When they returned, Nadely spoke clearly and firmly. "Earth respectfully declines your evacuation offer. We will stand against the void, with or without your help. Earth will not abandon its people. Instead, we will become what this galaxy has needed for too long. A shield, not a sacrifice." As they left the chamber, Hayes whispered to Nadely, "They never expected us to refuse." "No," she replied. "And that's exactly why we will succeed where they failed. They'd been running so long, they'd forgotten how to stand and fight." Earth changed rapidly in the weeks following the council meeting. Military Coordinator Richard Martinez worked tirelessly from the new Global Defense Center, transformed from what had once been NORAD headquarters. On massive screens, he tracked the integration of human forces with the few alien allies who had broken from the Council to support Earth. "The Nilari engineers have finished upgrading our lunar-based defenses," Richard informed the assembled leaders. "And the Craxus have provided shield technology for our orbital platforms." Around the room, faces showed a mixture of determination and exhaustion. No one had slept properly in weeks. "What about the psychic amplification stations?" General Walsh asked. Dr. Sandra Lee stepped forward. "We've completed 17 stations around the planet. Each one extends the natural human consciousness field that disrupts void entities. Frank's team has the remaining stations at 80% completion." Frank Wilson nodded, his eyes red from lack of sleep. "The power requirements are enormous, but we've solved the stability issues. Each station can now project a shield approximately 100 kilometers in diameter." Outside the windows, construction vehicles moved across the Colorado landscape. What had once been mountains now housed massive energy projectors and defense systems built with technology from half a dozen worlds. "The shield network will create overlapping coverage," Dr. Lee continued. "But we still have gaps, particularly over the oceans." Richard pointed to new data appearing on his screen. "The void isn't waiting for us to finish. Look at these readings from Saturn's rings." Everyone turned to see footage from deep space monitoring stations. The rings of Saturn were disappearing, section by section, consumed by expanding patches of darkness. "They're feeding," Commander Hayes said grimly, "building strength before they come for Earth." "Time estimate?" asked Walsh. Richard checked the calculations. "At current consumption rates, they'll reach Jupiter in 3 days, Earth in under a week." The room fell silent, a week to prepare for something no civilization had ever survived. "Deploy everything we have," Walsh ordered. "Active or not, I want every shield station powered up. We test the network tonight." The test came sooner than expected. As the shield stations powered up for their first synchronization, alarm systems blared worldwide. A void entity, larger than any previously encountered, had suddenly appeared in Earth orbit. "It's ahead of the main force," Hayes reported from the Valiant, which had moved to intercept. "Some kind of scout or vanguard." On Earth, Dr. Lee rushed to activate the incomplete shield network. "We're not ready for full deployment, but I can bring 10 stations online immediately." As the entity approached Earth's atmosphere, the first shields activated. From space, they appeared as shimmering domes of blue-white light, each centered on a major population center. The void entity paused, then directed itself toward Chicago, a city with only partial shield coverage. "It's testing our defenses," Richard realized, "targeting our weakest points." Dr. Lee worked frantically, redirecting power to strengthen the Chicago shield. The consciousness patterns are holding, but the power grid is straining. On screens worldwide, people watched as darkness met light above the Chicago skyline. The shield flickered but held. Then, unexpectedly, the entity split into multiple smaller pieces, each attacking a different section of the shield network. "They're adapting," Hayes warned from orbit, "learning our patterns." One by one, 3 smaller shields failed. In those areas, darkness descended to the ground. Buildings disappeared. People vanished mid-step. Downtown Seattle is gone, Richard reported, voice hollow. Portland too. Estimated casualties, 2 million. Dr. Lee fought back tears as she worked, redirecting consciousness patterns from volunteer centers. We need to reinforce the remaining shields. By dawn, the attack had ended. The void entities retreated to orbit, seemingly satisfied with their test. Inside the defense center, the mood was grim but determined. 7 cities had been partially consumed. Millions were simply gone. The shields worked where they were at full strength, Frank noted, seeking any positive sign. The concept is sound. Hayes joined them via video link from the Valiant. His face was ashen but resolute. This was just a test. We hurt them. They withdrew rather than continue against strong shields. General Walsh surveyed the damage reports, then looked up at her team. We've suffered losses, but now we know. They can be stopped. We have 4 days to strengthen every shield before the main force arrives. And if we fail? Richard asked quietly. Then Earth joins 27 other civilizations, Walsh answered. But unlike them, we go down fighting. The message went out on all frequencies, in all languages known to Earth, and several provided by alien allies. It broadcast from every functioning transmitter across the planet, aimed at every corner of the galaxy. This is Earth, Sol system. To all sentient beings capable of receiving this transmission, hear our words. We have encountered the entities known as the Void. We have fought them. We have learned their nature. And we have held our ground. We are humanity. We stand as the shield. You are no longer alone in this fight. In orbit above Earth, Commander Alan Hayes watched from the bridge of the Valiant as the planet below glowed with the blue light of overlapping shield networks. 3 days of non-stop work had strengthened every station. Volunteers filled consciousness amplification chambers worldwide, their combined mental patterns creating a barrier the Void couldn't easily penetrate. Main Void force has passed Jupiter, reported the sensor officer. Estimated arrival, 6 hours. Hayes nodded, his face calm despite the fear in his stomach. All ships formed defensive positions. Remember, we're not trying to destroy them. We're channeling them toward the amplification fields. The remnants of Earth's space fleet, now joined by ships from the Nilari and 3 other species who had broken from the Council, moved into formation. They were pitifully few against the darkness approaching, a wave of nothingness that had already consumed outer planets and moons. On Earth, Dr. Sandra Lee made final adjustments to the global shield network from the Central Control Facility. All stations report ready, she announced to the gathered leaders. Consciousness patterns are stable, power reserves at maximum. General Walsh studied the tactical display. The Void is changing direction. They're concentrating on the North American shield cluster. They remember where they succeeded before. Frank Wilson noted grimly. They're targeting our previous vulnerabilities. But we've reinforced those areas, Dr. Lee reminded them, and added consciousness pattern variations to prevent them from adapting. The first impacts came against the orbital defense platforms. Several disappeared instantly, consumed by darkness. But the fleet held, directing the flow of Void entities toward prepared engagement zones. Hayes watched from the Valiant as darkness surrounded his ship. Shield integrity holding at 80%, he reported to Earth. They're testing for weaknesses. Below, in cities around the world, people gathered in designated safe zones. Many joined hands, following instructions to focus their thoughts on unpredictable patterns, creating music in their minds, imagining impossible colors, thinking of jokes and riddles. Scientists had discovered these mental activities strengthened the shields. The main Void force hit Earth's atmosphere like a black tidal wave. Where it touched shield boundaries, strange patterns formed. Neither light nor darkness, but something in between. They're trying to process the consciousness patterns, Dr. Lee observed. But they can't predict the variations. For hours the assault continued. 3 shields failed completely. their regions falling to darkness. But where shields held strong, the void entities began to retreat. "They're pulling back," Hayes reported in disbelief, regrouping in high orbit. The tactical display showed the darkness consolidating, as if confused by the resistance it had encountered. "Now," Dr. Lee shouted, "activate the final protocol." Around the planet, all shield stations suddenly shifted frequency, broadcasting the combined consciousness patterns outward instead of forming defensive barriers. The blue glow expanded rapidly into space. On the Valiant, Hayes watched in awe as light engulfed darkness. The void entities scattered, retreating faster than sensors could track. "It's working," he whispered. "They can't process it." Within hours, the last traces of the void had vanished from the solar system. Celebration was tempered by mourning for the lost cities and billions of lives, but humanity had survived. 1 week later, the first messages arrived from distant stars, other civilizations responding to Earth's broadcast. Many offered alliance. Some shared their own knowledge of the void. The Galactic Council formally requested Earth's representation. In a ceremony broadcast worldwide, General Walsh and Dr. Lee established the Sentinel Protocol, Earth's commitment to maintain its position as defender against the void. "We did not choose this role," Walsh told the assembled representatives from Earth and beyond. "But we accept it. Humanity will stand as the cosmic shield, protecting all life from the darkness between stars. We make this vow. No more worlds will fall while we stand guard." 5 years passed since humanity's stand against the void. Earth had transformed in ways no one could have imagined before the conflict. Cities once consumed by darkness were slowly being rebuilt, glowing with the blue light of permanent shield generators. New buildings rose with alien designs merged with human architecture, creating something entirely unique in the galaxy. Commander Alan Hayes, now Admiral Hayes, stood on the observation deck of Sentinel Station 1, the massive orbital headquarters that coordinated Earth's defensive network. Through the viewport, he watched ships from a dozen different species dock and depart. "Admiring your handiwork again," Dr. Sandra Lee asked, joining him by the window. She now led the Consciousness Research Division, her work on human shield patterns having expanded into new fields of study. "Still can't believe we pulled it off," Hayes admitted, "when I think how close we came to accepting evacuation." Sandra nodded. "The Council representatives are arriving for the 5-year anniversary. Even Xorla is coming." The Galactic Council had been reorganized after Earth's success. No longer hiding beyond buffer zones, many advanced civilizations had joined Earth's Sentinel Protocol, contributing technology and resources to expand the shield network to vulnerable systems. Below them, Earth glowed with the interconnected shield grid that now covered the entire planet. The technology had advanced significantly, requiring far fewer human operators to maintain consciousness patterns. "General Walsh wants you at the welcome ceremony," Sandra reminded him. "Let's not keep her waiting then," Hayes replied with a smile. The central chamber of Sentinel Station had been prepared for the diplomatic reception. Representatives from over 50 worlds gathered, many whose civilizations would have been sacrificed under the Council's old containment strategy. Kate Walsh, now Director of Galactic Security, stood at the center podium. Though 5 years older, her posture remained military straight, her eyes sharp as she surveyed the assembled delegates. 5 years ago, humanity faced extinction, she began, her voice carrying through the chamber. "We were expected to fall like 27 civilizations before us. Instead, we discovered something that changed the course of galactic history, that consciousness itself could become a shield." On large screens around the chamber, images showed the expanding network of protected worlds. Blue shields now covered 17 previously vulnerable systems. "The void entities have made 12 attempts to breach our defenses since the initial conflict," Walsh continued. "Each time, they have been repelled. Each time, we have learned more about their nature." From the diplomatic section, Xorla rose. The blue-skinned High Counselor looked different now, humbler, perhaps. "The Council acknowledges that our previous strategy was flawed. Earth has shown us that retreat and sacrifice are not the only options. Today, we formally request full integration of Council space into the Sentinel Protocol. Murmurs spread through the chamber. This represented the final shift in galactic power, the old Council officially recognizing Earth's leadership in the fight against the Void. Richard Martinez, now heading the integration team, leaned toward Hayes. 5 years ago, they wanted to evacuate 30,000 of us as samples. Now they're asking for our protection. Hayes nodded. People change when they see a better way forward. After the ceremony, Hayes walked through the station's botanical garden, a place where plants from dozens of worlds grew together. He found Frank Wilson there, the engineer now responsible for shield technology deployment across multiple systems. Hard to believe it all started with that small device on Europa, Frank said, looking up at the Earth visible through the garden's transparent ceiling. We were lucky, Hayes replied. Not luck, came a voice from behind them. Kreth, the Nilari ambassador, whose warning had started everything, approached slowly. Your people were meant for this role. Your minds evolved differently from all others in the galaxy, perhaps because your world was tested so many times before. Hayes watched a ship depart Earth, heading toward the outer system, where early warning stations now formed the first line of defense. I still dream about the darkness sometimes, he admitted, what it felt like to see entire cities vanish. All shield bearers carry such burdens, Kreth said gently. But look what you have built from that darkness. As night fell over Earth's North America, the lights of new cities shone brightly, forming patterns visible from space, not random clusters, but deliberate designs that strengthened the planetary shield through their very arrangement.